Our next episode of Star Trek The Next Generation is Suddenly Human. It's episode number 78. It originally aired on October 15th, 1990. It was written by John Welpley and Jerry Taylor, from a story by Ralph Phillips, and directed by Gabriel Beaumont. Now, the episode begins while rescuing several injured young Talarians from a training craft, and Dr. Crusher discovers a human boy among them. The DNA matches establish his identity as Jeremiah Rosa. The Talarians call him Jono. Now, Starfleet thought he died along with his parents in a border skirmish while the Talarians and the Federation were at war. Instead, a Talarian captain named Endar took Jeremiah as a surrogate for his own son, who died in another battle with the Federation. Now, Endar has a rendezvous with the Enterprise and receives the young Talarians, and he also asks for Jono. Now, Picard refuses, and since Jono is human, Picard asserts that Jono should be returned to his rightful family. But Endar threatens war but Picard knows that Jono has reached the age of decision, and if Picard can convince Jono to stay, Endar will allow it. So just as Picard begins to succeed in his effort to awaken Jono's humanity, Jono attacks him with a dagger. And Jono could not face abandoning his father and the Talarian culture, so he believed Picard would kill him for the attack. But Picard recognizes Jono's deep love for his father and the Talarian way of life, and he returns Jono to Endar. And that's the end of the episode. Now, some fans were not particularly happy with this episode and actually wrote some pretty angry letters to Michael Piller about it, because they felt like this episode was promoting returning a child to a situation where there's child abuse going on, and that was the best solution, and fans were upset by that. But really, Michael Piller felt like that they made it pretty clear that Jono had a loving and protecting father in Endar, and that was not true at all. But fans apparently didn't quite get it in that particular way, so they were upset by that. But Rick Berman really adds, too, that they really wanted to make the point that the interpretation of the broken bones was nothing more than normal childhood broken bones, and that these people were sort of prejudiced in that direction. So it was not intended to be an episode that had anything to do with child abuse at all. But really, the aim of the episode for the writers was to talk about if somebody is transported from one culture to another and they grow up in that other culture, are they still part of that identity of what they were born as? So in this case, Jono is human but was raised by Talarians. Is he still human? And that answers those types of questions. And really, at the end of the story, Picard realizes that they were doing what they thought was the best for Jono, but they really didn't respect or listen to what Jono's wishes were. And that is why Picard returns Jono in the end, because he is old enough to make his own choices, and Picard decides to respect that, even though you can tell there's a little bit of gray in Picard's decision, and he personally wishes that Jono would have decided to embrace his human heritage and go with them. But ultimately, he does decide to let Jono make his own choice. Now, I kind of wonder, well, are the Talarians and Federation still having so many problems that Jono couldn't, say, visit his human family on weekends, something like that? I don't know. You have starships that go at warp capacity. I would think that would be possible, but it does say in the script that the Federation and Talarians have had some skirmishes in the past, and they're almost brought to war in this episode because of Picard's initial refusal to turn over Jono to Endar. So perhaps it was just too much hostilities for that to even be considered. But I thought, well, there are lots of divorced families, and sometimes the kids spend about 50-50. They spend half their time with the mom, and half the time with the dad. So couldn't they at least give the human parents some weekends, but apparently that was not thought of or not very practical in the 24th century. So that's my own thought about it. As far as the episode goes, the producers were a little bit unhappy with, not with Jerry Taylor, who wrote the script. They actually hired her on staff after writing this episode. But Michael Piller was disappointed by the show primarily because the aliens weren't alien enough. He felt like there was some miscommunication, and the whole idea of the show was missed because these savage and different aliens turned out to be a little too human in just the way they were designed here. So Piller really felt that they should be a little more savage looking than they do here. And as you can see in this picture, they do look very human, except for a little bit of makeup on their foreheads. So I get his point with that. And it's an interesting episode. I don't think it's one of my favorites necessarily of the 4th season, but it does bring up some interesting issues, as Star Trek often does. So comment below on what your thoughts of this particular episode is, and I will talk to you guys next time. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.